right, welcome to Art with Ian. This is episode 6 of the real-time painting tutorial series. So let's just jump right back into this painting. At the end of the last episode, we left off talking about working dappled light into the piece, and we'll probably do that as well as kind of start to build up our environment a little bit more and get a little bit of a better feel about how we're going to make sure that Link is popping nicely off the backdrop. Also, might be time to render this bottle, this glass. So let's actually just start with rendering the glass since it's going to have dappled light on it. So first things first, let's just clean it up a little bit. I'm going to use a soft-edged eraser. Size my brush size way down. That didn't switch. There we go. Now this is a hard surface, but I don't want it to be, I don't want the edges to be overly hard, like it was stamped into the painting. Okay, a little bit of that. Now I think the rest of it we're going to push in. By actually painting. Okay, this is good enough for right now. Okay, so let's start by erasing away some of the center of the jar so we can just see through it. So I was thinking I might duplicate the layer just so I have a backup, but that's fine. It's not like it's a very complicated thing. So I'm going to get my soft round pressure opacity and flow brush, and I'm just going to start erasing away. I'm experiencing some pretty bad lag right now. Not really sure why I'm getting so much lag. But hopefully that'll stop. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to come up here to Edit, Purge, and I'm going to go Purge All. And hopefully that deals with the issue. Okay. Just sort of thinking about where I want the glass to feel like it's still catching light and such a little bit. Okay, now glass is obviously very reflective, so let's go in here and I'm going to get a brush, the MA brush number 1-2 that I like, and I'm just going to go ahead and grab a color from right here in our environment, and I'm going to create a layer over the top just in case I want to push things back and change things around. I'm just going to start painting in the reflection of the environment along this edge and just some shadow work in general, and I can obviously change this color as I go, but there's a lot of grain in the environment, so if you want something to look reflective, just take that environment color and start splashing it around on that reflective item, and you will usually be on a good path. Okay, let's think about the shape of this here. So this right here is a lip. facing down, and so we want to show a strong edge there. We're also establishing the angle of the glass and how much of this mouth we show open like this. We also want to show the bottom of the glass, which is down here somewhere. And we can change the edges here, how round they are, to suit whatever perspective we decide on. So it's better, instead of being a slave to what you already have, it's better to decide what you think feels good, and then you can go in and change the jar. So if I wanted to, I can just ease these edges a little bit to suit the perspective that I'm going for. Okay, back to the layer on top. Okay, let's go up here and grab a sky color. Maybe go a little brighter. Start working this in. To the top of the jar. And we know how to render spheres, so we're going to render this like a sphere. It's just a very specific type of sphere that happens to be translucent to some degree. So we have to be careful that we don't overdo anything. Now, if you're interested in learning how to render spheres, if you don't know how to render spheres, I do have other videos in my backlog of stuff that I did in the past that talks in fairly good depth about rendering. I think I have a video that actually really covers it well, which I will try to remember to link in the description if you want to go and look into that more. Okay, so let's just assume that this bottom piece is a little less see-through. It's made of a little bit more of like a sturdy kind of glass that they worked on there. Okay, let's take a color that we see in our environment and just paint that in. And we're just going to pick a few areas where we create these feelings of lines. Now this is kind of a tough one that I'm not going to be able to really overly teach about probably here in this setting. Otherwise this would become a video about that and not about what we're trying to accomplish. But go study, do some still lifes, go study metals and glasses and reflective surfaces, and you'll start to understand what I mean by, like, this could easily be the cork, right? Just catching right here. Yeah, reflective surfaces tend to have these kinds of moments on them. Maybe Link is just catching right here. And these don't need to actually be like accurate, really. They just need to tell the viewer to feel a certain way, and then once you've accomplished that goal, you're golden. I'm not sure if this neck might feel a little too stretched out, kind of a thing, but we'll look at that later if need be. Like, I think maybe this could probably stand to be just eased off a little bit, like that direction, like so. And then this glass here is thicker than the main glass. Let's bring in the ground color. We got to be careful not to go too far with it. We still want to show our shape and form and everything like that. Going a little darker now. And I'm rendering like with the same mentality as I've been rendering everything else, is, you know, building things up to the desired kind of level of render. I got away from me a little bit there. And not getting, you know, not going too far too quickly. And that's a personal preference. Some people might feel like it's too slow and they want to get where they're going like way faster, which is, I can understand. I would caution against going too quickly though, as far as, you know, just at least in my case, when I was a younger artist, I used to go much too quick. And there were a lot of things that I overlooked because I was just kind of over eager to move on and get to the next painting, kind of a thing. And that's fine if you're. I think it was, you know, I just wanted to try different things, and I think that was just me being a product of where I was at as an artist at the time. But I do think that it's worthwhile to get into a mentality at least once in a while where you really sit with a painting and you ask yourself what you're not thinking about, what you haven't done yet, where could you take it, and just kind of try to push yourself and see what happens. So I'm gonna go much brighter now. And hit a few spots just to really start to sell that glass feeling. I'm not stoked about that. Okay. Remember, when something is turning, when a form is turning, to try to ease some of your edges a little bit. Let's kind of show like that. You know, like at the bottom of a bottle, there's kind of like a little bit of a texture where you can see almost like the weld. I'm not sure if I'm really selling that right now, but that's what I'm going for. Might just ditch that. I'm just not really working. I would have to take a lot more time with that, I think. Okay, let's get this cork really quick. I'm just going to grab the shadow color that I have right next to it and use that as my base. Palette mixing off the canvas. Okay, note that I'm not going all the way to the very bottom of that cork because I want to show bounce light. There's a lot of light in this scene. And it helps us to feel that light around the canvas, around our painting, I should say, when we allow it to bounce like it does in real life. Crazy story, well, it's not really a crazy story, but crazy thing that I saw one time. I was looking out my studio window, and it was sunrise, or early in the day, not sunrise, but the sun was low in the sky, and it was hitting the wall of one of my neighbor's houses, which is a white house. It was hitting that wall, and it was bouncing across their side yard, across the side yard of the house next to it, and hitting the wall of the house next to it so hard that the area of the house that was deepest in shadow, that had absolutely zero light from the sun on it, was brighter than one of the sides of the house that actually had some light on it from the bounce light from the white house next door. That's how powerful bounce light can be. And if you look around, if you pay attention, you'll start to notice bounce light is incredibly powerful in the world, especially when the sun is the light source. And yeah, pretty incredible how powerful it can be. Okay, let's just put a little texture on this cork. I'm gonna go lighter and a little less saturated. And do my highlight. Remembering the light source is above me, coming from behind, pointing down at my canvas and off to the side a little bit. Let's go a little deeper, a little more orange. Just want to get this edge feeling a little bit more edge, like an edge. It was feeling a little too muddled. Okay, I think that's probably fine for now. Okay, let's get that main. I'm gonna go much more yellow. And we're gonna get the main light on this, which I'm thinking is gonna be right about here. That's the actual sun, which means I really kind of need to kill this one off. It's competing. I don't want it to compete. Alright, I think I'm going to call that... Where am I going? I think I'm going to call that okay just for now. Probably needs to have more light just in general on it. Like it'll be a little bit more washed in light. Well, maybe we'll address that really quick. Like so. It's just feeling a little too see-through. All right. Let's call that good for right now. And we will create a layer. So let's see, there's link sketch. Okay. Technically, we don't need that anymore. I'll just leave it, just in case. Okay, we're gonna create a layer. And we're gonna call this dappled shadow. And set it to multiply. And I'm thinking, let's see, let's just pick a color from our environment. Maybe this kind of green here, but let's go a little gray, well, a lot grayer, and maybe a little bit lighter, but let's keep a fair amount of color in it for now, and just try this out. I'm gonna get I think I'm gonna try my chalky render brush for this, and I'm gonna start just thinking about, is that too dark? Possibly too dark. In the long run, it might not be too dark, but it feels too dark to start. So I'm gonna back that off. Let's stay with the color, the saturation, but just go up. Maybe more into like the 30% value range-ish. Let's try that. That feels a little better. I'm gonna start establishing the dappled light. In this case, it's actually the shadow, as I named it. That is on the, on the characters and the ground, right? So it's gonna come up over link. Now we're thinking, so we're imagining a tree that we can't see that's above us, and behind, and like actually in front of them. And so the sun is coming down through those leaves. And we're just going to start to imagine what these shadows might be, this dappled light. And try not to get overly concerned that it looks great right away. We're just gonna try and find shapes that we think look good, right? This is a process. Like the whole painting is obviously a process, and if you're not in love with what you're doing at first, don't get discouraged. Just kind of keep working it. One of the beautiful things, as I think I've probably mentioned a few times now in this video series, is is that in digital art, you can just keep on going back and having another try, and you don't lose money on materials, you don't ruin your canvas, you don't nothing. There are no negative impacts when working digitally to trying things and seeing where you get. So let's see. Just trying to decide how big I want these shapes to be. You know, how big are the leaves? How heavy are the shadows? How far does it go? Also, I'm thinking about the forms as I wrap these shadows onto his body. And starting to kind of, I think right in here, maybe I just want some slightly bigger shapes, like a slightly bigger block of shadow right through here, and then have it break up again. And maybe something that's coming out. It's obvious that on the white of his undergarments that this is really working the best. But I'm not sure if I really want that all the way over there. Well, we'll see. Okay. Maybe get one that kind of comes across his belt buckle. What do I think about his hand? Maybe? Now this is not clipped to his body, so the shadow is actually going all over. Like it's going onto the canvas, see? So I have to be careful on that front. And probably some cleanup will be required down the way. Let's see. If we put enough of this side of his face into shadow, the color feels a little too saturated on his skin though. But I was just thinking, if we put enough of this side of his face in shadow, we could actually maybe pick up the light from the fairy in here, but the color is wrong for sure on his skin. It's much too green. Looks absolutely bizarre. Let's just pull our eraser back up here. I don't know. Might need to just change the color for his flesh altogether. Okay. I'm gonna poke a little bit of light out inside here. Just a couple places. It's too dense, in my opinion. And we can add to this feeling of light hitting by actually introducing a light source as well. So maybe it's time to do that. I think I'll put it under the shadow. We'll call this dappled light. I'm going to set this to soft light. I'm going to go to a warm, kind of just a slightly orangey yellow, but I'm going like much, much, much less of the yellow and far into the grayed out about 15% value and like 5% saturation, something like that. And we'll just see how this hits. And note, I haven't zoomed in yet either, which is going to be helpful eventually to kind of like clean up my choices a little bit. I should have erased that off his hand. The color I chose looks nice, especially on the white, but it looks terrible on his skin. It really does. Looks like he got some kind of ailment. Okay, let's carry this onto the ground. Onto the bottle. And, slowly but surely, we will arrive at something that feels more refined and ideal. But I'm assuming, hopefully, you're starting to kind of see what the effect is going to be. Get a little bit of light there. Let's get a little bit of light on the edge of this. And yeah, we can use this to actually add light as well, because everything is going to be, I'm going to be eventually going onto a layer over the top of everything and just painting this all like it's on one layer. I might even merge it all together. So there's no reason not to use this to paint some of my lights and whatnot as well if I want, if it feels right. We should probably bring this, is that too far forward? Maybe. I definitely want this light to be hitting right around here, because these are dark shadows that I've been establishing. Like this shadow of the sword, that's a dark shadow, which means that we need light to make it make sense. Okay, let's get my eraser. Carve some areas out of here. I like this color right in here, so I think I'm gonna go and create a layer over the top of all of this. And I'm going to start using this on just the regular layer mode. As one of my shadow, as like a main shadow color. And we need to remember this is coming from a tree, so we need to maintain the feeling that it's actually leaves. And then they can be stretched and warped by the angle of the light to some degree, but they need to be attached. Like leaves are attached to branches, you know, they don't just, I can't just have a shadow, a shadow, a shadow like this, right? These things, they're not just random spots floating in the sky casting shadows for me wherever I want. Now I can put the shadows wherever I want, but they need to feel like they're attached to a tree. Like they're all growing off of the main source, which is over here. This is why there's more shadow over here. This is branches. That's what I'm thinking about, right? So a branch has come off the tree. We're getting less of the main bulk over here now, that we see over here. We're starting to thin out, but we're still getting branches, right? We're still getting stuff that does what we want it to do. All right. As we go back into the distance, we also don't want to be as bold with anything necessarily, or we want to be careful about that. So I'm just going to start painting straight into the environment now, and just addressing things that I see that I want to do, like putting shadow in my, you know, to start building up the life of these bushes back here and whatnot. We used texture brushes to get us some really nice things just laid in, early things. But I'm being a little bit more particular with some of the choices here than I'm able to be with textured brushes. Be careful going into the distance that you don't take deep values too far back, because you will destroy the illusion of distance with contrast. Contrast, we see lots of contrast in the foreground close to our eye, and we see very, very little contrast as it goes back. Now, technically, in reality, we probably see a little bit more contrast than what we show in our paintings, but we're trying to we're trying to sell an illusion of distance, and so the best way to do that is to actually kind of emphasize that lack of contrast as it goes back. Like, probably in real life you wouldn't see this much fog, right, that I've got going here, and I'll probably, you know, some textures will appear in here, and you know, bushes and leaves and trees and all that stuff, but for the most part, this is the mood, right, that I want. This very kind of, it's going back into a fog, and the whole point of that is because Link pops off of it. We're creating a focal point out of Link, and I'm just painting leaves with my chalky render brush. This isn't the fastest necessarily way to get leaves. I've got some leaf brushes that I've got in some pack somewhere, and they do okay, but they're a little less particular. Like you're stuck kind of using, or you're stuck with the shapes they provide you, which is less like what I kind of want. But let me just show you really quick. What they are, and I'm assuming most of you guys probably know about these kinds of things. They can be helpful at like laying stuff down. Like here's some right here. Let me just create a new layer so I can get rid of it if I don't want it. So see what I mean? Like I can get some leaves. Those are too big for where they're at in the shot. But I can get leaves, like shapes, right? And that's pretty helpful. Typically I would go in and paint on them and stuff. But what you lose is control. And you also are, if you're not careful, you're also going to fall victim to having a very kind of obvious playing or use of these kind of stamped shapes, right? Because they'll start to become obvious if you're not careful. So those kinds of brushes are cool. They have their purpose. I'm certainly not against them, but in the case of this painting, I don't think I'm gonna use, or if I do use them, it'll be like later on, and it'll be just to splash little textures and things around. I'm gonna go darker and introduce some foregroundy things. I'm trying to think of like what colors I might like. Maybe white, because of the white on him. I might do white flowers, and maybe some a few yellow flowers because of his hair, and maybe some pink flowers because of the fairy. And then in that way we will carry our main color palette around the piece. I'm gonna get the soft round pressure size brush. I'm just putting in the first ideas of a few grasses and things. This stuff will get probably painted over to some degree and have to be painted back in, but I'm just indicating to myself some of the things that I want to do. Like, let's get one overlapping that jar. What we're doing with these foreground elements is we're creating the illusion that we're pushing everything into the scene, right? Which is the reason why I sized Link down. You might recall a couple episodes, if you've been following the series, that we sized Link down and moved him back into space a little bit because he was cramping up the overall feeling of the shot. All right, just painting little things, little grasses, little things, starting to flesh out this environment some. Maybe we could do some bush type stalks. Like, not really bush, but like stalks, like leafy stalks that are growing up back here. And maybe push a little bit more light onto them so that they pop. Still using that hard round, what is it called again? Soft round pressure size. So it's got a slightly soft edge, but it actually, at this size, it's actually quite bold. So it's good for laying in initial ideas and things. Some leaves of some kind of bush back here coming out over that tree, giving us some nice contrast on that trunk there with the leaves over the top. Let's change color, going a little more yellow. Gotta be careful not to... I'm gonna go darker as well. Gotta be careful not to continue to use the same colors when you're doing these kinds of things, because there's so much variety in nature. It's absolutely crazy how much the variety of color palette in nature, like it's really intense actually. I went a little too yellow, I think. Okay, let's try going up into a very kind of getting closer to white. And I'm going to establish like these stalks are like flowering. Now that might be too bright, so I'm going to dull this down some. I'm not sure if I dulled it down enough. Probably not. I'm going to go a little more. Okay. Some more of these little white. Yeah, this feels a little better grayed down here. Okay. I'm going to get a softer kind of... I'm going to use my chalky brush now. And I want to establish that there's more of these, but they're not as focal. Or maybe some of them can be closer, as you know, a bit close to as focal, but not quite. We might do one or two in the foreground. I'm not even sure what they are. They're just some kind of little flower. I don't want to. Let's go 3. I don't really like to work in evens, at least when they're countable. Is that over the top? Yeah, I don't really want that many over there. Let's just do like that kind of thing. It's okay for now. Okay, I got a little carried away in here, so I'm gonna just dial it back a little bit. Reintroduce some shadows. And again, as per the usual, this is a play back and forth, just finding what you like. Playing light and shadow, creating shapes. Okay, I'm gonna get a different layer just in case I want to ease this back. I'm gonna try one of my textures. This texture MA brush number 8-3, if you decide to get the this brush pack. It should have been linked in the last couple episodes. I might link it again since I'm still using it, just in case you started on this episode viewing. Okay. These are not my brushes, by the way. I've been, like a few years ago, I started getting more into traditional and oil painting techniques in my digital work, studying the Dutch masters and whatnot, and I needed to find a really good pack of brushes that helped emulate paint brushes, and these are the ones I found, and they are phenomenal. Okay, so I'm just going to try this color and see where it gets me. need to go dark in order to go light. So we'll establish some darks. And then we'll bring back the light. Got too big on me. All right. Well, I think that got me somewhere that I can live with. Gotta go back in now to, I think I might actually use this brush. This is the MA brush number 3-11, and go back into my darks. I'm gonna get cooler here. Just working backwards here. And a lot of times I work back to front actually, which is how I did when we started this scene. But I'm not that bothered. It's fine to go either direction, because the way I work anyways, you have to play it back and forth anyways. So it's fine. Okay, I'm just creating an area of dark here to give myself a boundary for this bush, and then it shows that we're going back into the distance into another bush and other little things back there. And then I will ease back on that a little bit. It's important to note that this is over the top of Link, this layer. So if I'm not paying attention, I can just, accidentally paint right over my subject matter. But it's fine. Obviously, I can erase away at the end, clean things up if I need to. Okay, I'm going to hit these trees. Let's see here. I think I want them to be lighter, or like, birch maybe or something like that. So I'm going to start to work that out a little bit. Possibly they could even have some dappled light on them to help continue to sell the feeling that this is all one big environment. Okay. I think I want to get rid of that right there. That was just destroying my silhouette. I'm not even sure what it was. Probably an old tree from early on in this process. I'm going to paint a few things back there. Might have gone too dark with that. Ooh. Let's get something from here maybe. There we go. That's better. Okay. Okay, I think I'm gonna try this light. And this might be much too bright. In fact, I'm just gonna come down with it a little bit. And I'm just gonna try hitting some light on this tree back here. Because we've got light hitting our bushes, and the tree is not that far away. We could even try for dappled light on these, like I mentioned. So we'll just start to indicate that a little bit as we get up into here. Get my shadow color, and I'm just gonna drag some leaf shadows across the tree. And probably call that okay for the moment. Not really in love with the way this bush is looking. That hard brush I was using, or the soft, it's kind of, it says it's a soft brush, but it actually is fairly hard. I think it just got a little too edgy looking back there. So I'm just gonna kind of start over with that. Some of this stuff is also too, I think, just too stark. So I'll just kind of work on that. And again, not zooming. We will eventually zoom in on some stuff in the environment, but for right now, just trying to avoid getting caught up, because I'm not actually going to help myself in designing the environment if I'm zoomed in on this one bush painting a flower. That's not going to help me. In fact, it's going to hurt. Okay, let's try getting another couple colors in here. Like I said, the hair. Only we're gonna go a little bit more yellow and a little bit more color, because these are flowers, not hair. Just finding a few little areas where we can put yellow flowers. Okay. And lastly, we're going to go pink. And maybe just kind of, I want it to not feel contrived, but I don't want it to feel bizarre either. You know, like weird placements. I think we could probably get away with a pink one up here somewhere, you know. Perhaps these pink ones and the white ones are the same species, and they just bloom in various colors. I don't know. We're just trying to get a nice feeling of the colors being carried around. This color of the fairy is going to get bolder, by the way. We haven't really worked on the fairy that much. What time do we have? 55, goodness. We haven't worked on the fairy since we first established it. Remember, there's going to be a trail of kind of fairy magic coming from the jar, going up around his body, showing that the fairy went around him like it does in the game, healing him. So that's still to come. Obviously, the Master Sword has been untouched for ages now, it seems like. But, you know, we're getting there. We're just taking it one step at a time. I wonder if I should go a little bit richer with a couple of these. Like so. Get one nice one. Overlap the tree. Here we go. I like that. See that? That's contrived. See that line of flowers? Bink. It's like my brain. I think that's, I'm probably not the only one guilty of this, but it's like the human brain is just, oh, let's make a line, let's make a pattern, let's make things that feel organized. And as much as there is organization in nature, it's also extremely random in its own right. So we have to be careful that we don't just destroy the illusion by getting ridiculous with our placements of things. Okay, I just put dark there, and I'm just re-establishing some texture because I just didn't like what I had at all. And we are running quickly out of time for this episode, but I'm pretty happy with what we've managed in this episode. Starting to get the, that's too light. Starting to get the environment to feel a lot more alive. And you know, that really helps a lot in getting to a finished piece. When you get the place, the mood of the place that the character is in actually really working. So this has been a good productive one. The last episode, I was looking at what I got done in the hour, and I felt like, man, I didn't get that much done. And sometimes it feels that way. You paint for a while and you're like, what did I even get done? And I did get stuff done, important stuff, but it definitely was, it was an episode where I felt like, man, I hope whoever's following along with this doesn't feel like they just wasted an hour of their life. No, probably being, you know, scrutinizing a little too much there, but anyway, all right. I think I'm gonna call this. I just wanted to get a few more leaves kind of developed a bit really quickly. Okay, we are at an hour, so that does it for episode 6. Hope you guys are enjoying this series. If you're enjoying, please give this one a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with your friends, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.